Ron, thanks for being with us again. Look, when you walked into the White House this morning, there was just placard after placard of illegal alien and what they've done. Where's the balance between getting the message out and making sure that, doing your job, keeping illegals out, and making sure that the American people understand who some of these people are?
Well, I think we got to get the message out because all of those placards that you saw, those were people who were arrested since the start of this, since January 20th. Right, so those are the worst of the worst.
Right.
That the president agreed that it was, and the American public agreed with him and voted him into office to take care of that problem in our cities and our towns. And so that's a result of the front line. And then I would say that getting the message out is important. The White House does it really well. Kristi Noem has been doing a wonderful job at that. We see Tom Homan on TV regularly. And so we have to get the message out because we have to refute the propaganda that's in the mainstream media and let people know what's actually happening.
I was listening to Secretary Rubio push back on Meet the Press this weekend about these women that were deported and the children that were with them. It's funny to me because it seems like under the first Trump administration, we would arrest folks and then they talked about that family separation. They'd say, well, the kid didn't do anything and you're separating them. Now we're actually keeping them together. It seems like you can't win.
Yeah, the media here they're working on someone else's agenda. They're not working on the American people's agenda because they're saying things like there was no due process in this case, that this woman didn't have time, that these children were deported. That's not the case.
So explain that. Because I've heard the same thing you have. So let's just start with why was or was not there due process?
Well, there is a process. When someone gets arrested that's in the country illegally, they have an opportunity to see like this guy, Brago Garcia.
Right.
He was arrested. He was ordered deported. He appealed that decision by an immigration judge.
Yep.
He lost that appeal. So he was ordered deported by our government in the process that exists. There is no other process.
Well, I was going to say, see, to me, that was the process.
That's exactly.
When the Democrats say there was no due process, that's just patently false.
It's not true at all. There are immigration court. They fund the immigration court. They fund how many judges we have. They fund the courtrooms. They fund the phones and the telex lines. They fund all of that. That's what they do. The detention centers that we use at ICE, they fund all of those things. They can't say that all of those things exist. They write checks. Congress writes checks for those every year.
The way the left articulates this is that every single person has the right to due process, right? So, for example, when someone gets deported, yes, they're here illegally. The Democrats would argue, well, that person deserves to go before a judge and have their case adjudicated.
Well, in the case of Garcia, that's exactly the process he went. He went in front of two judges.
But I think there's also the fact that there's a difference. I think what Democrats won't tell you is there's a difference between citizens in the United States, people here legally, and then people who have broken the law and coming in. And then the answer is, well, shouldn't they just be returned?
Well, then there's also a difference between what a criminal court will order and exact and then what happens in the administrative procedures. Immigration law and the procedures for deporting someone and then removing them are all administrative. So they don't have the same kind of rights in that you would have in a criminal trial.
So one of the things that came up with respect to some of these women that were deported was why them? You got 20 million people in this country legally, tons of criminals. What is the hierarchy, if you will, of who are you guys going after first and foremost? And why are people that maybe aren't hardened criminals currently where they are in the queue?
Well, this is the difference between the leadership that we have now and Kristi Noem, Tom Homan, and Donald Trump. The border matters. The sovereignty of the United States matters. If you're in the country without being inspected, admitted, invited, or within the rule of law, you're subject to deportation. And so sometimes people are getting arrested. Now, the priority, if you talk to Todd Lyons, who's the acting director now of ICE, the priority is the worst of the worst. He's going after hardened criminals that are in every community in the United States. That's their priority. But if that criminal is living with other people who are in the country illegally, they're also going to be arrested because this president, and he's only the first one that's ever stated it out loud, is that if you're in the country illegally, you're going to be subject to enforcement procedures.
Okay, so in the case of some of these individuals, why them? Like, what was it that they were with people? Why are we hearing about them when necessarily we haven't heard about some of when we still have other criminals to get to?
Well, it's because the media wants to over-index on somebody who's not a criminal because there's very few of them. And so when they find it, they light it up and they try to tell us.
So are we going to see more of these people who necessarily aren't criminals? I guess my point is I get it, right? So my view is if you're in the country illegally, you still get deported. But is it the case that you just, when you come across these people, you might as well just get rid of them? Why, for the folks in the media who are saying, why these women now? What's the answer?
There's no exception under the law. If you're in the country illegally, you're subject to being arrested. And they were in the wrong place at the wrong time after they made the choice to come into the country illegally.
Okay, so the bottom line is, I also think it sends us a message, which I think we've talked about this on the show before, the CBP One app, which is if people start thinking that, it's just a matter of time, then maybe I self-deport now.
That's right.
So that's,
Consequences matter. The policy that what happens after you are arrested under this presidency is you're going to be on a path for removal. Under the Biden presidency, you were arrested and you were waiting to be released into the United States. That's a real difference for everybody involved.
So I firmly believe that the signal that we send, the bat signal, if you will, under the Biden administration literally said, come, we'll give you free gifts. Under Donald Trump, it says no. How important is the signal to deterring illegal immigration versus, say, just having a border wall?
Though it's the actions. Consequences always matter in this. If you let people get away with bad behavior, like crossing the border illegally, if you let them get away with it, they're going to do more of it. They're going to tell their friends, and they're going to come and do more of it. So when you institute consequences at the line and in the interior, the bad behavior starts to be reduced. In the case of the border, less illegal entries, because like you said, that signal's going around the globe that says if you come under this time now, you will be removed.
Okay, so we know we're going after the worst of the worst, the criminals, the bad guys. How is this a case that in 4 years from now, so let's just say that you've been living in the shadows for the last 4, 5, 6 years under Biden. What is the message that you want those people to get? Which is it, you might as well go now because we're going to get to you. It might take a year, it might take 2, or should they wait it out?
Well, they're subject to being arrested and removed for the mere fact that they're in the country illegally. They have an opportunity to register with the government. DHS has a website to go and register. If they're in the CBP, what used to be CBP 1 is now CBP Home. They can raise their hand in that application and say, I want to go back home. I don't want the knock on my door. I need an assistance with a travel document or with funds for an airline ticket. All of that is possible under the current administration. They don't have to be arrested and removed if they go home by themselves.
So in the case of an individual who is married to somebody not legally in this country, what is the advice that you guys give them? It's, hey, you guys both deport, you make a choice. What is the advice to somebody who's married someone not in the country?
Yeah, that's an individual decision. That couple will have to decide what's best for them if one of them is subject to deportation and removal.
Okay. I appreciate you spending time with us. Thanks for everything that you guys are doing to secure our border, to keep us safe, and keep up the great work.
Thanks so much.
All right, thank you.
Well, if you enjoyed this content, make sure to like this video, subscribe, and click the notification bell to get more.